So we have three excellent founders from the Taipei DeFi or crypto scene right here. Do you guys want to do some brief intros just to get us started?
And from Cream Finance, we are a decentralized lending protocol. We are currently live on Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Phantom. So essentially, if you just bought your first Bitcoin or Ethereum, if you want to earn interest on the underlying, then you can go and do that. If you want to get crazy and do margining, you can do that too. But I'll skip the product stuff to Cream.finance if you don't know.
My name is Kevin. It's great to be here. So Naos has only been about 5 months old, so I feel pretty honored to be here. Share some of my thoughts. Traditional VC backgrounds, had a couple startup experiences. Pretty new to crypto, so happy to just be here and share thoughts.
Hey, I'm Wilson, the founder of Steakr. And Steakr is a digital asset management company. We based to the crypto newbie, so we do the crypto finance service for them. And I have 6 years of blockchain development experience from my college, start from college student. I work for blockchain and Bitcoin wallet and some research about blockchain concepts, algorithm. This is my background. Thanks for having me here.
So, one thing I run into, and I'm sure you guys run into, is a lot of people who are kind of crypto curious, and they want to get into the space, they want to do something, not just sort of, buy Bitcoin or buy Ether or whatever, but they want to like work in the space. And I'm curious, maybe more for Leo and Kevin, but also Wilson, to get curious to get your opinion. What has your experience been like, sort of transitioning from the sort of traditional non-crypto investment or sort of tech working life into crypto? Like, what are some things you didn't expect? What has the experience been like?
So my background has been in tech management. Started in hardware space actually, all the way back in semiconductor equipment manufacturing. Then somehow ended up in cloud compute. I'll save that journey for another time, but. Having dealt with a bunch of Amazon Web Services, DevOps things really gave me a strong understanding, linking Web 2 to Web 3, and that was a good foundation to understand because basically compute, storage, and bandwidth maps very well to Web 3. There are a lot of parallels you can get at, and so that foundation was helpful to understand how various pieces work. But I do think it's important to emphasize that crypto blockchain is very multidisciplinary. So not any one person is the expert at all the things, right? So you can go from consensus mechanism all the way to, marketing psychology, like behavioral psychology. You don't have to be, I think the key takeaway here, you don't have to be technical to work in this field. I think that's something kind of a misnomer. In fact, I do think that the industry needs non-technical people now more than it needs technical people because people need to help understand and make sense of this stuff. So if you have an ability to understand this, it's helpful to be able to understand and explain. My own transition was helpful because the cloud compute part helped me. My first interaction was with Coinbase, where my previous startup served the software QA function for Coinbase back in 2014. So then I learned it from the kind of the bottoms up. And then the business background I have allows me to better understand kind of finance pieces. So when I built Cream, it was helpful to have that background as well, the tech and the business and the marketing and all that. So, but my advice for people jumping in is so Cream is part of the Yearn finance ecosystem, and we're very much community driven in that we're also launching a new thing we're calling the Creamery, which is allowing community members to contribute. So again, technical or non-technical can do things and then actually get paid. So for a lot of developers, you want to have that pull request into the Cream repository. Say, hey, look, I contributed to this open source protocol, or I wrote this guide that was helpful to Cream for people to understand. I did this video. So do these things, and you can be in the circle. You can get paid. You can build your resume, and then from there, you can continue to participate, or you can then start your own project if you want to. And I think the space is very collaborative, good for that.
So it's a little bit different for us, right? So. So before Fun Naos, I actually started another fintech company based out of Southeast Asia. So we've been operating for about 3 years. Everything goes well. We were backed by 500 startups, Alibaba Group. But COVID hits, right? So I think for our approach is that it's a little bit more business driven. So we actually have a business case. We actually have a business model that are suitable for DeFi, right? So I would say then last year, that's when we started thinking about how do we transition to existing business and connect that to DeFi. And that's how we came across Naos, right? So my approach to, I wouldn't call a switch to DeFi, but we see DeFi as more of an extension to what our current business is doing, right? And vice versa right now, right? So for DeFi right now, I think for DeFi to sort of expand into the current 1% of stakeholders or users, we have to sort of find a way to connect to the real world, and that's what Naos is doing. Basically, we're facilitating borrowing of crypto native assets using real world assets as collaterals, right? So we're actually building a bridge or infrastructure for the DeFi ecosystem to expand. And I think Cream, just before this panel, like Leo and I were just having a discussion on how we can plug into the Cream ecosystem and vice versa, right? How they can tap into the Naos ecosystem. So it's I think the keyword from Leo's response is it's a very collaborative and partnership-driven sort of ecosystem.
Yeah, in my experience, the difference between the traditional finance and crypto, yeah, I think the key point is the efficiency and the easy to do the transaction. And from my opinion, my experience working at Mithro, working for Mithro, to do a transaction, you pay the money to the cross pro is very hard. You must need to go through the Swift protocol, right? It will make you wait up to 2 days or 3 days and cost a lot of the fees. But you use the USDT or Bitcoin, you can just in 1 second your business product can get money right now. So I think the efficiency is very, very different to the traditional finance. Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
Maybe for potential employees or founders in Taiwan, how would you sort of characterize the Taiwan or Taipei crypto scene? What's your experience been like in that?
Yeah, you get to start.
What's the broader question? Can you repeat again?
Yeah.
Actually, maybe you're nervous. Yeah, I'm very nervous.
Okay, well, don't be nervous. Just chilling.
Yeah, geography. I'm very nervous.
For people specifically in like Taiwan or Taipei, how would you sort of characterize the Taipei crypto scene, especially maybe compared to other scenes you've been a part of or other cities you've been to?
I still don't understand what you're talking about. The crypto scene. What's the crypto scene?
How would you characterize like the community and then the companies and the projects that are based in Taipei, like or even relationship with the local government or funding here?
I think there's a lot of opportunity for Taiwan team to develop DeFi product because our younger generation in Taiwan has no much opportunity to do some make money business. Yeah, I think the DeFi, because our younger generation, we have the ability to learn fast and learn more than our elder generation. So you can learn fast than this older man. So and you can absorb the international blah 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 and yeah. So I think the DeFi project is you know what I mean.
For the young Taiwanese kids.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
I completely disagree with the younger generation. Stop talking Leo as like an older man.
No, I learned a lot from him. Yeah.
Alright. No, I think one thing I love about crypto is that it's super open, right? Like I have done startup previously in the equity space, right? So business model, economics is all stealth, right? Like you don't want to disclose anything until you launch your product. Crypto is very different, right? You kind of talk about your product, you get your ideas to the communities, and everybody's just sharing their things, and it's very open, right? So that's kind of what I love. When you come to business development, partnerships, any initiative, like I can just reach out to any founders in the Telegram group, introduce yourself. You can look at their source code, you can look at the GitHub, it's all there, right? So to me, it's basically you sort of working with various partners to build your own product, right? And you get communities involvement early on. So not only you get extra support, but you get validations. right? You get people to sort of give you some idea on what area need to be approved on. I can talk to any other project in a similar space and see if there's a sort of value add to each other, right? So to me, that's great, right? But I think the cryptocurrency in Taiwan is becoming, I would say, a little bit more vibrant than before. But we're not quite, at the Silicon Valley sort of level yet. I mean, we still see a lot of teams that are super open, but there are also teams that are not as open, right? So we're actually hoping that we can kind of foster this cooperative initiative among all the teams here in Taiwan. It's a small island, right? We see a lot of good talent, we see a lot of good ideas, we see a lot of super strong founders, right? So why don't we just all work together to that one goal?
Yeah, so I think the angle I like to look at this too is having been in that San Francisco cloud compute scene and that venture space as an operator, and then coming to Taiwan. I think what's very apparent to me is that the Taiwanese generation, the young kids, as he says, so they haven't had the fortune of, in San Francisco, it's just ridiculous. Like, you go out to a bar, it's like, oh, this person's working for Slack, that person's working for Atlassian, and there's a meetup down the street that Ethereum Foundation is doing, and then all the opportunity is there. And it's so open and easy to get to it. And here in Taiwan, it's like, the younger generation has never had the taste of like, well, this person got rich because of the options, that person did some venture stuff. It's more about, well, the 年终多少钱? How much money are you getting in a bonus? I don't care about the work, I don't care about the progress, I don't care, but because they haven't seen it successful, so it's not their fault that the generation. So we as entrepreneurs here in Taiwan need to take that leadership and say, yes, it is possible that you can make money off of equity or token, whatever, equivalents of get the upside with the project. So first and foremost, we as a community need to drive that, to make it happen, to make venture real here in Taipei. But I think the government is a little bit at fault too, because we have all the success and resting on our laurels as Taiwan on TSMC, and that's great. Everybody loves TSMC. It keeps the island safe for various reasons. But but the government the government needs to say, look, software too. We have such a great wealth of talent here in Taiwan. I have probably not seen so many smart engineers that are here all in one place, like, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? And we just need to help bring these people up. So to that point, that Kevin also said, as part of the Yarn ecosystem, I work very closely with Yarn Finance, with Sushi, with Acropolis, with Pickle, and everybody's so collaborative. It's like, hey guys, can you go do this? We're on the same Discord server. We just go over there and you tag the founders. Hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we see your code? How did you do this? I want to fork your X sushi so I can do an X cream token and use the same smart contract. Cool, here's how you do it. Like, it's there. Why don't we have that for Taiwan? Why is there not a Taiwanese equivalence where all our projects says, hey man, I like your smart contract, I like that excerpt, like can I do that? And this is what I want to do. Is it cool if I change it? We need more unification of our ecosystem. We need to lift each other up, and I think that's the thing we need to do. But I'm actually curious too, Tom, from your perspective as an investor that's seen the US system work in Facebook and Instagram, how do you see this place being different? You've met a lot of the folks here too.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing I haven't touched on yet is sort of like why I moved to Taiwan, because I was in SF for 10 years, sort of before moving here in January. I think for me, 2020 was sort of, for many people, a year of like reflection and sort of thinking about what you're doing and if it's the right thing to be doing. And for me, I think the venture landscape, especially the crypto venture landscape, very much changed in 2020. Not just because the market was crazy, but remote fundraising is now the thing. Even when I started at Dragonfly, founders would still fly to San Francisco, who would meet in person, they would come to our office and pitch. And there were so many founders where I've funded them very large amounts and we've never met in person. And I think going remote gives you access to global capital and global talent, and it's just way more efficient. And I think that's very much the way that things are going to be going forward. Is you don't have to fly into San Francisco to get access to sort of like Bay Area VC capital. And then I think too, for crypto, the Bay was definitely a hub in 2017. You saw a lot of great companies coming out of there. Obviously, Coinbase is still there. Probably the biggest one. But I think in this sort of wave of crypto in 2020, 2021, I can't think of many, if any, teams in the Bay that I funded in 2020. And I think most VC funds actually would probably say something similar. There aren't for whatever reason, the Bay is just really not having that sort of coalescing of talent. The same way it had that in sort of 2017, 2018. And so we look at the teams that we funded, and it's global. It's teams in Asia, it's teams all across the US, it's teams in Europe, it's teams in South America. Like, you can sort of be anywhere and start a company, and you can get access to amazing capital, amazing founders, amazing employees and community, and like you can sort of be wherever you want. And so both those things mean you can sort of be anywhere. But then why Taiwan specifically? I think I sort of see the same thing that you're saying, which is there's really amazing talent here that historically hasn't really been able to be tapped, right? It's because you're sort of limited to the Taiwanese domestic market, which is somewhat small. But with crypto, you can take a few people in a room, build something amazing and all around the world people are going to start using it. You can grow volumes. You can reach hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of AUM, like just from this island if you're a really strong founder, really strong team. So I think that's like really compelling. We sort of again see this already. There's a lot of already like pretty impressive success stories just for the early stage of the industry and everything. So anyway, I'm like now transitioning to like Anyway,
but to Leo's point though, I think Taiwan is a little slow to start, right? Like it's really hard to expect founders just to reach out to each other, right? But I think the responsibility actually lies with the investors. If you invest more in Taiwan, you can pull together your portfolio company and get them to start working together, right?
Yeah. So if you're a founder in Taiwan, hit me up. I'll connect you and chat with these guys.
Yeah.
I actually one more thing I had a thought about previously too. So I was born here in Taipei, and my family took me to the United States when I was a kid for like, okay, American education's better, blah, blah, blah. But I think about this, how it wasn't through my own hard work or whatever it is. Like, I probably didn't work as hard as this guy. He went to Taipei. Like, I probably would have flunked and barely gone to college here because they're so competitive. But in America, I got a different set of chance. And even earlier, right, like, this dude is really smart. I've been working with him for a long time, but he kind of, on stage, like he's not speaking natively English, so that this is more
just your generation. It's just
your generation.
Thank you.
He's probably smarter than me and harder working, but the fact that he doesn't speak English natively is a disadvantage as an investor, as an audience. You discount him probably for what happened earlier, and that's something in Taiwan. I think if we can make the dual language thing work, if we can partner marketers that speak native English, write the thing well, with people that build stuff well, and then packages super well, and that's how we can succeed too. I mean, I'm not meaning to say that Western investors are like racist or whatever, but like you can see some of that.
Yeah, I think accessing a global market, unfortunately, you still need some English, but Wilson, your English was good. I don't know why these guys are giving you shit.
Thank you. So ironic.
Yeah. I guess maybe specifically around the government. I'm curious what you guys interactions have been like, or if there's things that you feel specifically like the Taiwan or Taipei government can be doing to sort of encourage crypto entrepreneurs here, crypto capital move here, et cetera.
I have no experience in that.
Okay.
I think actually the experience from you is super valuable. Like you as a foreigner coming in here. We as a nation need to make it easier for foreign direct investment. Sure, there's this political thing about like, but what about China thing? But like, if we can, controversially, like, look, let's just draw the line. Like, maybe that's a different set of rules, and then internationally we're going to open up, and then make it easier for guys like you to show up because you can. A lot of our friends come here from America, and they're like, hey man, I tried to open a bank account. Recently, Daniel Q posted something on Twitter. He's actually a really smart engineer here in Taipei. He just got a 1-year lease, building some cool projects. And he's like, the system's backwards. I can't get a bank account. And then if I don't have a bank account, I can't get a lease. If I don't have a lease, I can't get a bank account. And I need money. And I need to get my NT to pay my prepayment, but I can't get my NT because I can't wire my money in because I don't have a bank account. And it almost sounds like a stand-up routine, but that's the crap that needs to get solved before we can allow more foreigners to come in. I'm lucky to have this Taiwanese ID so I can then do my thing. But why don't you share with us your experience and how we can fix that? If anybody here is watching and can do something about it, we should.
Yeah, I agree. Making it easier for talent to come in is always quite good. I think also just like, encouraging capital to be invested. Obviously, people want to kind of know that for certain types of investments, basically the Taiwan government will sort of double, right? They'll invest alongside, and then if you do well, basically give away the equity. And so it's like a really great way to get access to basically more capital, both as an investor but as a founder. It'd be great to see that apply to crypto companies as well. Like so much of the investing that I do is being done through stablecoins, right? Like today I'll send a few $1 million in USDC, and like that's the way we wire money. We're buying tokens off a sort of cap table, not necessarily doing a traditional equity investment. And I think both those things don't really qualify, but it would be great to see sort of like recognition of the way we do capital formation in crypto and sort of support for those. But just from my experience so far, I guess maybe a question for Kevin. You're the one sort of going out and you're sort of at the vanguard of DeFi. You're chatting with people who are maybe not part of crypto or part of like finance at all, and trying to explain what the fuck we're doing to them. Curious what your sort of experience has been like, explaining Naos and trying to make this thing mainstream.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, right? So I think the bigger issues that we're facing right now is not from the DeFi ecosystem, right? So it's usually from the traditional. So how do we get the legal entity set up? How do we do this the right way, compliantly, right? KYC, how do we do ML? All those things, how do we do liquidation, right? When it comes down to an asset, right? So how do we come up with a structure that actually makes sense? And the issue is that no one knows how to tackle those answers, right? Like there's no answer to that. So it's actually up to us to work with our partners. So we're working closely with Maker now, right? So our team and their legal team are working hand in hand to try to figure out the right legal structure to make that transition work, to make that process work, right? It took us 2 months to finally get the application up. It is going to take another 2 weeks with the community voting and governance, but I think that's going to be pretty easy. But the 2 months of preparation work is going to be hell, right? And it has been hell. I think we're fortunate that we actually have a little bit more of a, I'll say, unfair advantage, right? In a sense that we actually have financing licenses. So when we deal with, say, borrowers in the real world setting, we can actually come to them and explain ourselves, right? And they actually feel comfortable interacting with us. But imagine if we don't, right? How do they ever work with the DeFi protocol? Like, how do they explain to their own internal board that they're going to borrow money not from the bank, but from MakerDAO or Aave? Like, how are you going to explain what Aave is, right? So even if that goes through, like, how do you KYC Aave? How do you KYC DAO, right? So those are the issues that we're facing right now. But I think crypto is it's gone mainstream, right? So with Tesla buying, with all the big guys buying, I think they know it's not a scam. And I think Taiwan actually has a challenge is that everyone mentioned, I mean, blockchain. People should think that you're selling like shitcoins and you're just like scammers, right? How do we tackle that? I mean, I think that's a question for both Leo and Wilson.
The key challenge in Taiwan crypto industry is the crypto field for Taiwanese is a scam. It's a scam. Too much scammer in Taiwan scam the people with the pension B or blah blah B blah blah blah. So do the education for here is very, very important and very hard to do. But yeah, as Kevin said, Tesla, Elon Musk buy the Bitcoin and he's showing the Dogecoin or MicroStrategy or Fidelity. Recommend the investor to allocate 5% portfolio to the digital coin. They will help us to educate people to invest in the cryptocurrency. This is different to 2017. Yeah, it's 2021. Larger institution start to buy the Bitcoin. It's a very strong signal to help us to tell how the crypto grade to be. Yeah, it's what you know what I mean. Yeah, that's my point.
Well, just not just with the partners, right? Like even when I'm doing hiring, like I'm telling people that hey, I work in a crypto company. Some of the engineers they just hung up the phone, right? So it's a real challenge, right? But I think having credible funds like Dragonfly being here, right? Having them start investing companies that are backed by reputable VC funds, I think that helps, right? So definitely need one of you guys here. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I will take that. Leo, I mean, I'm curious. You guys have like Cream is sort of like a unconventional path. I think like you're not sort of doing the sort of standard startup company go do pre-seed, seed, path to fundraising, and then also just approach to building. Right, you guys are super community heavy and community focused. I'm curious what your experience has been like, sort of managing a community both to like fund and build this thing.
So, I understand earlier your comment that you didn't like a compound on BSC type of concept, so we did.
You guys aren't on compound on BSC.
I'm just kidding. No, I think it's interesting. We're very lucky that we came in heavy during the DeFi summer, and we were able to get a lot of protocol fees. So let me kind of break down some of the numbers. So right now, Cream has about $1 billion worth of supplied assets and about $450 million borrowed. And so the fees generated from that since our inception in August is roughly $11 million. Most of us have lived through the 2017 downturn, so we're very kind of scared that ETH might just pull back 50, 90% in one day. So we cleared a bunch of this stuff to stablecoins. So we have roughly $8 million of our balance sheet in stablecoins sitting in Yearn vaults earning anywhere from 10 to 20% APY. So if you do the numbers there, we're roughly self-funded now just based on the protocol fees that we've already collected. And so that's a very different funding environment. We don't really need to go and raise funds anymore because we're already profitable based on even if we don't take any more fees for the next 6 months, which is not the case. So I think it's a very interesting thing where we did go through some people think that we're like a food coin from the DeFi summer. It was a bit different. We did the cream thing, we did the ice cream logo because it was there, but it was really more about crypto rules, everything around me, cream. But like a Wu-Tang reference. But anyway, so we did have a yield farming as a way to liquidity bootstrap, which is a good one. And now we've shut everything off. The thinking behind the teaching of Andre Cronje has said too, that don't give away your tokens, hold it tight, be careful. I mean, give away tokens for the right reason, but don't just yield farm the crap out of it because then you'll run out. Unless you have a minting unlimited token model, but we don't. So, and then now we're moving toward this idea. We have this new tool that we're using from the Yearn ecosystem called Coordinate. So Coordinate, but with 8 at the end. So that tool we're using as a creamery, and it's a really cool system where all the community members plus the core team members can vote on community contribution and then decide who gets paid from that bucket of community funds. And so while we do have some paid help here and there, not in the core team, I'm actually experimenting with what if we started pushing all the help that way, and then the community voting and the funding distribution is based on work done as perceived by their fellow community members. And that funding mechanism creates a very different model, which I think for anybody here that's not in the crypto industry, we don't have a job board you go to. Like we just have, here's like the list of stuff to do. Permissionlessly come in and do stuff, and then we'll pay you. But there's no HR person. You don't send in a CV, resume, you don't interview with the team, you look at the stuff that's needed. So the funding from the team and the protocol fees goes off to pay these different tasks that need to get done, which then structures a very permissionless work environment in some ways. And at that point, we don't really care if you work at the office or you're based in Argentina or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. All that kind of roughly works itself out.
Very cool. Let's see. I guess looking forward the next year or two. What are you guys most excited about in DeFi? And then what are you most excited about specifically for crypto in Taipei?
I'm really excited to see that DeFi has proven itself to be a business model that stays, right? And I'm super excited that over the last few months we're seeing many of the titans, thinking about at least trying to get into real world assets, one way or the other, right? So say from the major lending protocols such as Compound Aave and maybe that which we're in contact with, Oracle such as Chainlink, Umbrella, Blue-Zile, they're all like wanted to, thinking about stuff like that. And they all come to us. So I think we're proving to them that with the asset size that we currently have, we can be the go-to partner for them to say to explore potential partnerships, right? So I mean we're still really early, and we just have good ideas and some like fundamental things set. But I think the direction that we pick with the validating, which are validated by our partners, and we're just really excited to see how that ecosystem grow, right? So so other than just on the Ethereum network, on the BSD side, we're talking to Venus, Cream, Fortu, and then just unlimited opportunities, right? So I think we're just really excited to have a bunch of partners to work with us and to scale that ecosystem, so we can create an infrastructure for future innovation to take place. That's using real world assets as a base.
Maybe. I'm looking forward to DeFi where the TVL will going bigger and bigger, and when they're bigger enough, the world. I think the world where real asset will connect to the DeFi. The TVL will go bigger, and it will lead to go to the mainstream, and more people will know how the DeFi grew. Where's the goodness of the DeFi, and that's it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think there are, for me, specifically for Taiwan in the upcoming next, call it 6 months to a year, I would like to see us continue to retain folks like Tom and other folks that are coming in from the US and like, look, come live here, get that gold card and work with us, right? Like, we should just be handing this stuff out, like gold card, you get one, like Oprah style. Look under your seat, you all get a gold card today. But like, retain the talent, like attract and retain the talent. That's super important. We need to do.
Don't take all the talent.
Just kidding, but like, I think that's really big for one thing, but specifically for our protocol, we've been focusing on the protocol lending. So I think coming from the Web 2 world, all of it was about microservices and API connections and how do you then automate all the things between that. And there's actually, I don't know why nobody's really talked about this very much in Web3, but it's really the same thing, right? So instead of, like, all the APIs are open essentially. When you look at a flash loan, you could, the flash loan traverses through, like maybe you liquidate a Cream loan through a loan you borrow from Aave and you change something on Uniswap and then you move it back to Cream and then you liquidate and you go back to Uniswap and you pay back your loan on Aave. Like, there's no SSOing between the platforms and everything just works. That protocol-to-protocol bit is where we're placing our bet, automating all the things so that we can be the liquidity backbone for all of DeFi at Cream. So that, already we have Yearn Vaults leveraging Cream loans to do this, and then Alpha Mora V2 is coming back after an unfortunate exploit event, but that they're coming back stronger, which is great, and we're integrating other sources of liquidity both on the borrower and supply side. But if I look forward further than that, I think it's really the integration of real-world assets being more leveraged. So there's a refactoring of the AR, that's really exciting. But the thing I'm really looking forward to is if you can take an NFT-based representation of a home, of a property that has real value, and then you put it into an auction where you say, okay, well, my home is whatever, 500K, $1 million, and here it is. And then through like an NFT auction system, you integrate that into a DeFi lending protocol. Then you get your home loan, and you can collateralize this with like a wrapped Bitcoin or something, and then that all works. But my challenge here, obviously, would be when would municipalities adopt this? And this is where our dear leader in technology, Elon, can come in. And when we land on Mars and colonize that, I think that's when might be the first transaction of such a thing. And you might think I'm crazy, but in 5 years or so, you'll see differently.
I think that's a good note to end on. Any questions from the audience?
Hi, this is more on. I'm just curious how the VC space is now looking at like when they invest in projects, because you can obviously buy tokens, but then traditionally you buy equity, right? So, what do you like better, or how do you make that choice? When you look at the DeFi projects, you kind of look at both. Or it depends how they're set up, I guess. But what's that calculus?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the company. It depends on the project. Generally, if you're doing early stage DeFi investments, generally the way you do it is you do a equity investment with either a token rights or a token warrant, and so you get a little bit of both. But I think the general consensus right now is that the equity is sort of throwaway. It just sort of exists as a way to get tax efficient exposure to this token that's underlying, because that generally is where a lot of the cash flows from the protocol end up. So it depends. I think even if you're doing something that is sort of borderline, right? Like let's say I'm investing in a wallet or something, you generally still get token rights. And so, even if you don't, the company generally has tokens on its balance sheet, and so you get exposure to it anyway. So there's not sort of a one size fits all, but those are sort of a couple of different ways we think about sort of deal structure.
My take is instead of a question, it's more like a sharing. So, my background is a trader at Wall Street. In the decade, decided to move back to Taiwan this year. So, getting back to your question about no, go back first. So it's very exciting. The upside is that very exciting to see people like you guys. This is my first conference joining this crypto. I couldn't imagine that this can happen in Taipei before I come back until my friend told me all this, right? So super exciting. We have an investor side, we have a developer side, we have a curator, we have a founder, right? This is the upside. We never have it before. The downside, like you guys suggest, is that culture, the regulation, legal issues, all that, right? I can tell you that in my humble 2 cents, right, as a Taiwanese born out here, this is about culture issue. This is culture. So it won't take, it's really not until the mainstream media expose all these the crypto news and upside, better pro news. This year, the Bitcoin and crypto becomes so popular this year, right? So as a sense, it needs to take some time for people in the mainstream, the media, to digest, to post all this news. Then all these people here, this land, then the people can digest and start, thinking about, hey, how we can attract talent, how we can make it better, regulations, support each other, make it an ecosystem. So that's the problem right there. So I guess that's where people like us, we can jump in and make it better. But this is where the hiccup but also recent challenge. That's my 2 cents.
I just want to say I've been doing events in Taipei since 2017, So we're just, bringing it up, and this is just the beginning. So thank you. Did you guys want to comment on that statement?
Yeah, sure. I will. All right, thanks. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a culture thing, but I don't think we have to rely on the media to sort of educate the population, right? So I think the media is a reflection of what's happening in the society, right? So to be honest, I think this choice is yours, right? It's not you can blame the media, you can blame the government. The way I see it is that if you're willing to take the risk, right, then you're standing to reap the reward, right? So that's the choice between if you want to join the Google or you want to start your own company, right? So I think culturally, yes, I agree. Most of the people in Taiwan want to join Google, right? But there are also a bunch of people want to do their startups, right? I think we have a pretty healthy sort of startup ecosystem, right? So I think it's a mentality thing, right? But how do we convince the people, driving from Google to the startups thing? I think that's another question, right? But yeah, I think media is only going to report success news, so it's up to us to give them more, like ammunition to report, right? Sorry.
Well, hi, my name is Charles. I work in VC, and recently our fund just invested in a crypto-related company. My question would be what would you say is the most, what would you say for issuing tokens? What would you say is the most what is the regulatory risk that you're most concerned with? Security or
Well, being American.
Yeah, that's one of the.
I mean,
we run into.
The problem with I think I mentioned earlier, there's a lack of regulatory clarity based on the United States. I really think it's unfortunate that the global economy has to be dependent on what the U.S. decides to do or not, or whatever. That's the reality. I think you probably.
Yeah, I mean, we deal with a lot of teams that are trying to figure out sort of their token plan. I mean, I think the space has certainly changed quite a bit. I think sort of the gold path, if you can call it that, maybe the fool's gold path right now is basically don't do public token sales. I think that's generally a pretty good idea for a number of different reasons, not just regulatory issues. When you issue the token, don't try to make it an investment, talk about the price. Generally, you just issue the token as a means to govern the thing, which is actually, kind of the whole fucking point. Like, you need to distribute governance, and that's why we're kind of here. And I think those two things alone, I think, give you a lot of clarity, or give you a lot of cover. I think it's when you try to do something that's sort of borderline, sort of semi-centralized, where you're clearly like the one, giving the token value, or there's cash flows tied to the token immediately. Those are kind of when you run into issues. But it's pretty kosher to issue a token, just give it away to people, as long as there's not sort of clear presentation that it's like an investment opportunity.